number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Christiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website covering Broadway and off-Broadway theater and everything theater. I'm coming to you from the LTV studio in Wainscott, and I have a special guest, Geraldine Brown-Giomblanco. She is an author, and she has written a fascinating book about one woman's faith-filled journey to find love, true love. Welcome.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
Your book is really very, very interesting. You're a Roman Catholic, and you spent most of your life thinking the right man and love would be the fulfilling force in life. Is that right?
That is true. Very true.
But it's also a sacrament, so it has a much bigger thing than just being something external. It's internal.
Yep, my grandmother, actually, to give you a little history, and that's the rose in the compass rose.
Let's talk about let's talk about your title real quickly, because your book is called Geraldina, and you're Geraldine.
Correct.
And Geraldina is what your grandmother Rosaria used to call you.
That's correct.
And she's kind of the guiding force. The compass rose. Tell everybody what that is.
Well, the compass rose is the navigation symbol for east, west, north, and south, and so I kind of metaphorically said that my grandmother Rosaria was like my guide. So, trying to find your true north. And so when she had passed away, which you'll find out later on in the journey of my story, that she was still present in her spirit, so she was always with me throughout this journey that I had.
This is a true story about your life, basically, really.
It is.
And I just want to read from the back, because it's what it says. It's a dazzling memoir. It brings to life the devotion of God that you learned from your beloved grandmother, Rosaria, and lessons that you gained from a gigolo, a psychic, guardian angels, saints, a U.S. president, and a string of unsuitable boyfriends.
Very true.
Which, I mean, everyone has to go through a string of unsuitable boyfriends, right?
To find the right one. So it's a joke. There's a frog story in there. And my mom would say, "Did you kiss the frog yet?" Did the prince show up? And so you'll find out fun little stories throughout the book. But my grandmother was in the convent. That's where the faith base came from. And when I was a young little girl, my mom and dad, they got married in their early 20s, and they had my brother Christopher, and then I came 13 months later. This is back in the 60s. And so my grandmother was a widow, and we lived with her. So I would watch her make the meatballs, pray the rosary. She always was very prayerful. And we found her prayer book when I was actually writing the book. My mom had it, and she would have these devotions, written prayers to Saint Therese, which is the little flower in the Catholic faith. It's a saint that you pray to, and she showers you with roses. So in the title, the compass rose, there's more than one rose. So the saint, and that's what my bookmarks are about. So you'll notice that there's a rose flower here and roses on the back. But Saint Therese, she believed in love and God's love for her. And you find out in my book that I find out the same thing, and I get showered with roses. So it's really very special.
Your first chapter is the man in the airport.
The man in the airport.
The man in the airport that you believe was your guardian angel that was sent to you by your grandmother. And now this chapter starts, you were 30 years old, is that correct?
Correct. I kind of jump around in the book, but you do get my front end story.
But what I want to get to, your journey with your guardian angel began around 30, is that correct?
That's when I felt like something
was guiding you?
Really special. I mean, that whole opening scene is pretty intense. It set up the rest of the story, because I always
It's beautifully written too. It was very engaging and delightful. And
I didn't get stuck so much on like the beautiful prose. I wanted to.
No, it's clear. You're just telling
the story, right?
Your intentions are very specific to tell the details of the story. I liked it a lot.
Thank you. The Man in the Airport really came from my vision of it being a film, because I felt like this mystical thing happened, and how do you capture that in writing, and then can we show an audience what it looks like because of something else miraculous happens 20 years later based on the messages that I received from this man in the airport.
So this man in the airport, he gave you 3 things: to never let go of the little girl within you,
Right.
and that there was your grandmother was trying to contact you. Is that what I'll
Well,
see?
she had a message.
Oh, she had a
So the
message.
stranger is pretty much telling me a lot about me. What happened was the airport, my flight got canceled, and I see a man across the room, and I just had an intuitive feeling that I'm going to talk to him. And I go into the ladies' room, and I figured it's going to be a 6-hour wait. I come out of the ladies' room, and he's there, standing there, waiting for me. But it didn't really surprise me, because I kind of had a feeling. And he invites me for a drink. And we sit down, and he makes these circles on the table. And I was aware of it, thinking, was this guy trying to hypnotize me? It was like in the back of my head. But then,
So you didn't trust him 100% yet.
right, but then something, that thing inside of us that just says, it kind of speaks to us, and we either choose to listen or not. In this case, I listened, and it said, relax and trust. So I trusted in him, and these are the messages I walked away with. Don't ever lose that little girl in you. You're going to receive a gift, and your grandmother has a message for you. Don't worry, you're going to know. And he continued to talk about other things, that only I would know. He talked about my Uncle Louis, who was a good friend,
Did you ask him how did he know about Uncle Louis and these things? Or?
Yeah, it was just. No, I didn't. I just was.
You just accepted that
I
it
just
was.
intently listening, knowing that this was something I had to capture.
So you were in a trance.
I was in a trance, and I wanted to write it down as soon as I got home. And I mean, he paved the way. Even I had to sit next to him on the way home, and he continued to talk to me. And he checked up on me one time with a phone call, and I never, ever. His name was Joe George from Atlanta, Georgia. And it was just, the whole thing was so bizarre. And when I went home,
This is what I love, when you went home and you wrote in your journal.
In my diary,
and you
yeah.
just 2 sentences, right?
Well, no, it was a little bit more. But yes, it said, I met my guardian angel, and guess who sent him? Rosaria. And I never called my grandmother by her first name. So for me to actually write it down was when you find out what miraculous thing happened later on in the book. Sorry, folks, it's chapter 15.
You have to
But
get
you gotta
the book to
and
find
it's called
out.
Coming Up Roses. So you get to that chapter, and that's where my husband, jumps into the scene. So, but it's a wow story, and so much so that I had called Lifetime and Hallmark, somebody I knew that writes for them, and I said, I have this story, and I believe it should be on film, in a film, and they said, you need to write a book first. So that's how this whole thing.
So you initially you wanted to write a screenplay,
screenplay.
and they told you to write a book first. So
To
now
write-
you've written the book, and you are writing a screenplay too. Is that
Oh,
correct?
yes, we're just about
And you
done
said you
with
had
that.
somebody helping you, or you had.
No, we have a screenwriter. He's a
But you're
director
writing
and
it
a
together
producer.
with somebody else.
Yes, we're on calls and stuff. I mean, we spend a lot of time with him. His
It's a
name
collaboration.
Yep. His name is
What's it?
Auntie
What's it?
Novakovic,
Uh-huh.
and he's directed films, and he's a producer, and he has tons of connections in the Hollywood scene. And also we have Diane Casa and David Platt, who worked. Diane Casa is a director, and she's actually finishing up an independent film right now, Where Art Thou? It's based on the Shakespeare Romeo and Juliet. And she is also a director. I said, her husband is David Platt, and he did the Law and Order series
Oh, cool.
of 20 years. And he feels that this could be even an episodic series, because I take you on that 30-year journey of a young girl going out there
And
looking
they're
for
doing it so much today on all the different
The
streaming
streaming and
platforms. I
everything.
mean, everything is an episodic thing. So it would. I mean, and your chapters just lead themselves to it. I mean, the titles
right.
of the chapters. I mean, it couldn't be more
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, The Man in the Airport, All Saints Day, Working Girl, Love Italian Style, The Cost of Freedom, Missed My Calling. I mean, every one of them is Meeting My Destiny. There are wonderful titles for little
And
short
I guess
episodes.
coming from your perspective too, the creative arts, when I was going through the process, and when you're in that creative flow, like you just know, it's kind of strange. It's like the artist's journey. Like there were certain parts where, when I first started writing, I was very insecure. But during the journey, as I'm unfolding my own personal story, I'm gaining this beautiful confidence, and I'm also, collecting and asking from help from other professionals and resources that help guided me along the way. But Patrick, that was like effortless. Like when I had
Which part was effortless?
finding the people to help me.
Oh, okay.
It's just like when
Asking
I had
for
the
help
thought.
was effortless. And the people just materialized. Is what you're
Correct. And that's what I think is the beauty of, I think, any artist really, because when you have that connection with what you're doing, it flows. And do you find that?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's still work, it's not like you have to work at it, and you have to dedicate your time and effort just like you would on any project. But with this, it was very different than my work.
But had you ever written anything before?
Nothing of this capacity, never.
You weren't intimidated by the fact that
I was challenged. It was like, so that's the other part.
The challenge really got you up for it. It didn't intimidate you. It made you more ready.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder what the gift that he's talking about, was. At 30, I was the youngest regional vice president of a company. Now, I worked for a shopping center developer, but I did marketing, and I was very good at that. I enjoyed it, and I loved the people and the connections and stuff. But it wasn't something that I had, set out to do. And now here I was with all this responsibility. So I feel like I was getting prepped to do something big. And I find that this is where I'm at right now, that this is the big thing. It's a big production. And in my marketing world, I've done a lot of big productions. I ran Faneuil Hall in Boston, and we did tree lighting ceremonies.
But let's go back. From that moment,
I know.
when your guardian angel came and you were around 30, how many years before you met the man, the true love?
So that was, I always said you could do the pen detector to find out the date. If my memoir was true, when I wrote about Joe George, that was June of
George is the guardian angel. We didn't tell them, I don't think.
Oh, we did.
We did. Oh, I didn't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
Joe George is her guardian angel in the first chapter.
Correct. And we said Joe George sent my grandmother sent him to me.
You did. You did say the name. I remember now.
So that's 95. I met my husband in 2015. So it's 20 years later.
20 years later.
20 years later of looking up into the sky, saying, "Grandma, is this the one, or is this the right thing? Am I going in the right direction?"
So when you made mistakes, she told you this was not right, forget it?
Well, yeah. No, it wasn't that. Like, she came down. But when it came to the right thing and my ring and my marriage, yes, she did. She came down very strong, and that's the beautiful part of the story.
Can you share with us how, your husband, his name is Captain?
Oh, his Mark Giomblanco. And he was married before. He had 25 years in a marriage that he moved on, and he took some time for himself, kind of like in the same place that I did. When I was 49, I thought, you know what? In my prayerful way, I just was like, if I'm going to be married, then let me be happy. And I had 50 things I wanted in a man. I thought maybe I have to get more specific. And if I was going to be single, then I just wanted that peace in my heart, to be happy and peaceful. Well, Mark was doing the same thing. He was at this point in
peace.
He was looking for peace. And believe it or not, the cover of this picture, this photo, is actually called "Searching for Peace." And I never knew that until the artist.
Wait, I didn't follow that. What do you mean?
So this is a stock photo.
Oh, it's a stock photo. Okay, that's what
believe it or not.
You explained it. The stock
so my
photo
designer,
is called "Searching for Peace."
And I did not know that until I had the first draft.
Because you talk about making your intentions as clear as possible, and that's another example of you both had the same super objective, super intention of having peace.
And our screenwriter loved it because we took him all over Montauk to show him actually where Mark was sitting on the bluffs at Camp Hero, kind of offering up this, thought to his grandparents, whose name is Joseph, so Joe, and he said, "Listen, I could use a little help, but I'm okay, but I could use a little help." And
This is what he was saying?
That's what he was saying. At the same time, I'm flying home on a trip, having the same thought about, you know what, I feel something's happening, something's changing. And we both took photos of the sunset that night. And that's when he decided to text me to come and meet him out in Montauk.
So how did you guys connect?
So this is fun. So my husband had his boat in Clinton, Connecticut.
Believe it or not, we have about 10 minutes. It goes so fast. So
oh, okay, sure.
Just give your
I know.
answer.
I carry on. Sorry.
No, you're not carrying on. It's just.
So
I just wanted so you know how much.
Okay.
So you have. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So he had his boat in Connecticut, and the person that had their boat right next to his is my mom's friend of 20 some odd years that lived in New York. And this woman, Eunice, watched Mark, kind of take his time out after his divorce and to relax. And she went to him saying, listen, I have a girl for you. And then she went to my mom saying, I have somebody for Geraldine. And I happened to be at my mother's house when that happened. And so Eunice is her name. She said, he has his boat next to mine. And when I heard boat, there was like something switched in my heart. Like something, I'm a fish out of water, I'm a Pisces. I'm like, boat, water, I've been waiting all my life. I just kind of opened myself up to the possibility. And that's when we exchanged numbers, and that was it. I never saw him, I never spoke to him until I get this text when he came off the bluff in Montauk. And then the rest is kind of history. I met him out here, and we knew right away that we wanted to get married.
Right away?
Right away.
Like how, 48 hours, 24 hours, immediate?
Like, my first date was at Inlet Seafood, and you know what he did, Patrick? He made this circle on the palm of my hand, which made me think of Joe George in the airport. I didn't know where that journal was. I had to go find it. And when I got home after our beautiful weekend together, I took him up on his offer. You'll read about that in the book. And it was an impromptu invitation of sunsets, great beaches, moonlight. I'm thinking, who is this person? Can we talk at least on the phone? He picked up the phone and invites me out for a long weekend. And then I came out that day, and the rest is history. So we knew right away that it was right for us, and the ring story is what makes everything come together. So when 6 months later, he was looking to buy me a ring, and I didn't want one. And then, should I tell them?
Yeah.
You think? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Okay, so basically, I refused. I didn't want a ring. I just wanted the commitment of marriage, and a wedding band would have been plenty for me. And I insisted on him not buying me one, but he insisted on just at least trying to surprise me. And we were in a department store, and he wanted to get an idea of what shape of a diamond I would want. And when we went into the department store, it was Lord & Taylor in Scarsdale, New York, and we walk over to the jewelry counter and goes, please, can you just look? And I'm thinking, there's probably not diamonds, in Lord & Taylor. And I kid you not, this ring was there. And as soon, we both put our finger right on it. This little Italian woman comes over, slides it on my finger. It's like Cinderella and the slipper. And everything changed in that moment. There was a feeling that I never had before.
But what was the woman's name?
Ends up being Rosaria Gentili, my grandmother. So we laugh because we're like, my grandmother would say, hey, that's my granddaughter. She's going to get the ring and the guy, So I was very fortunate. I got both. But yeah, so that's really the amazing part of the story, that message that I received earlier on carried me all those years to get to where I am today.
But it was a message that was based in faith. And in your book, you talk about in that chapter, the little bit that I've dipped into it, that you talk about your faith and your belief in God, and basically about that He will not give you any more than you can handle in a moment.
That's so true. Yes, and whenever things happen, and I have some dark, deep secrets and sorrows that I had to overcome, instead of running away from my faith, I went to it. And I realized that's the thing that gave me my strength and my courage to continue. It was like having, really feeling like having a protection and angels with you. And when I prayed, I felt peaceful, and I was able to get through whatever the turbulation, that I was going through at that time. and kind of clean the slate and be excited for my life moving forward.
But it sounds like you also approached everything like this is something we will get through, not something that was going to break you down. Because of your faith in God, you approach it as this is something we will get through, He will show me how.
And I think that timing is perfect right now because so many people are looking and searching for hope and they don't know where to go. And I'm not here to tell you, I'm not telling you to be my faith or in the Catholic faith, but to have something to believe in is so powerful.
Yeah, but hope does open the doors, but it doesn't open the doors without the actions. So you had to have the courage to take the actions with the hope. The hope alone is not salvation.
That is so, a lot of people have made that comment to me, but you took action. And it's like A plus B equals C. A is you out there, wanting it to happen, praying to God. B is you working with it. If you get that intuitive feeling, take it. There's a reason why it showed up. What is it trying to tell you? And for example, when I had to move to Boston, I didn't want to move to Boston, but something told me I had to go to have that experience to get to the next place. So I packed it up and I left. And it was the most difficult thing, but it was the right thing because none of this story really probably would have happened if I didn't make that move and learn from that experience. So I used to look up and say, am I ready yet for the next, am I ready? And then he's like, no, you got to go back to drawing board or,
Do you have to go back many times?
I did, like, for example, writing the book.
That was a new skill that you're learning too.
Right, but it was something that was unexpected, and it was so powerful. Not realizing it was going to lead me to the next step. I'm also doing an audiobook right now, a whole nother artistic craft I'm learning about. So I'm learning writing and producing and.
But those are all fun things to do.
I love it. Patrick, I'm hoping this is, the next 50 years, this is what I'm doing. I love it.
You've already started a new book, right?
Yes.
Well, so what's the new book?
Well, the new book is a continuation of where I leave you off here.
So it's a bit the same story.
It's still
Geraldine.
I'm trying to think of the proper name to segue it into the next. There's a place I go to in Connecticut.
So if it's a continuation, but you talk about what you're going through at the end of the book, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you want to go into that now? We only have about 4 minutes, or just say
sure. I think it's important because for the viewers to hear it too.
She's going through a really, after she got married, a couple of years later, she came up with a brain tumor. That she's faced with the same courage that she went about finding the man of her dreams.
Well, I think it's sometimes you get a stoplight and you have to stop. And so this was my stoplight to kind of rethink. So 3 months after I was married, and throughout the book I'm saying there's something not right. I was gaining weight, and and it ends up that I have a pituitary adenoma, which is not cancer, and it's called Cushing's disease. And it's something that you have to manage. I had to have surgery. But it also gave me the time out, believe it or not, in recovery to write the book. So, sometimes your stop sign is not exactly what you want, but pay attention to why, sometimes people break an ankle or something makes them stop to think about why that pause came. Instead of criticizing it, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. And for me, it was.
So you think our COVID-19?
And I had my mate, I had my captain, I had my husband who loves me for who I am, not for anything else, but supported me through the entire process and still does today. And I write at the end of the acknowledgments, without him, there would be no story. So I feel really blessed that I was in this place, even though it was challenging, but I had my mate, my captain to be there with me.
God bless you.
Thank you.
But now, I often think this COVID has given us a big stop sign and a big pause. Do you think we all have the same opportunity to really make something positive out of it?
Absolutely.
Because I do.
I do too, Patrick. For example, it takes a long time to get book signings and I love to public speak, so I really thought I'm going to be out on this book tour circuit, and I was lining up all of these really great locations and gaining the credibility. I also won an award for the book. And so all this was going on. And then COVID happened, and I couldn't do any of the in-person stuff. Actually, it happened on March 12th, which was my birthday, is when the National Guard was coming into New Rochelle and stopped pretty much everybody in their tracks.
Wow.
And I was doing a book signing right next door in Scarsdale, and I showed up, but nobody else did.
Well, now your book is available. Everybody can. It's Amazon.com.
Sure.
I take it.
I have a website too. It's gbgbooks.com. That's one word. I say God be good. And it's Geraldine Brown-Giomblanco. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. And also it's available however you'd like to purchase it. I always like to say that. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to your local bookstore. And now the libraries are starting to carry it. So I'm very excited that you can get it soon on audio, because that's what I'm doing here at LTV. They're awesome here. I love them. I'm working with Jason and Mike, the executive director. So thank you to LTV too for having us, and
We're
for
terrific.
you for having me.
They're a great organization here. They do a good job, and everyone's thrilled to have you here doing it too. They've spoke about you already.
Well, they're very talented here, and so easy to work with, and it is an art, and it is a very tedious process. You know, and you have to trust one another. And I felt immediately in good hands when I walked in the door here. So, very grateful, as well as talking to you.
We'll have to get you make a PSA.
I would love it. I would love it. That's where I'm hoping it goes.
Thank you so much for coming. We have it's been delightful, and we'll have you back when you have a film ready for us, or a series, or the second book.
I would love that.
Maybe just some other adventure you want to share too. It'd be delightful.
I will, and I just want to leave the message that I believe in love was a big part of it, and I hope that your guests and everybody can go there, because when you go there, that's where the magic is. Thank you.
Thank you.